Hi guys, it's Amanda. Welcome back to my channel. And in a cruel twist of fate, right before I started recording this video, I dropped my already broken camera and now it will not turn on. So I'm coming to you live from my iPhone. Anyway, let's get into it. Imagine, the year is 2012. Obama was re-elected to a second term, Gangnam Style is inescapable, the Twilight Saga is coming to a close, Call Me Maybe has taken over the airwaves, and most importantly, One Direction is the hottest boy band. It seems like every teen girl you know is obsessed with them, but you never caught the direction infection. You're more into indie, underground music, and you don't really care about boys. It's a crisp October night, and your best friend Macy, a 1D superfan, has inexplicably chosen you to accompany her to a One Direction concert. She won front row seats from a local radio station, and you have reluctantly agreed to attend because apparently she doesn't have any other friends. Macy is wearing a bright red circle skirt and a floral printed peplum top from Forever 21 because it's 2012, and every outfit description is hyperlinked to Polyvore. Your hair is in a messy bun, and you sport your dad's old Smith's t-shirt with a vintage flannel and thrifted mom jeans, because for you, going to a One Direction concert is tantamount to going to the grocery store. Even though you're sitting in the front row, you have your nose in a book the whole time because you can't be bothered by the banality of a boy band. Your worn copy of Wuthering Heights is far more interesting. You're so absorbed in the story that you don't realize all eyes are on you until Harry Styles, in his cheeky British accent, says, "Are you seriously reading right now?" You look up and say, yeah, this just isn't my type of music." Harry smirks. His green orbs light up. He replies, "You're not like other girls, you know that." Thanks." He reaches out his hands and pulls you up onto the stage. Reluctantly, you oblige, shielding your eyes from the blinding lights. Harry asks, "What's your name?" "Y/N, you respond. Harry says, "Y/N, that's a beautiful name, and I think you're gorgeous. Will you go on a date with me?" Sure, you respond, unfazed by the gravity of his star power. Harry gives you a kiss on the cheek and says, "I'll see you after the show." The crowd cheers. The end. Save for my horrible British accent, if you are a One Direction fan, you know this scene like the back of your hand. If not, let me explain. Imagines are basically paragraph-long fan fictions that were a staple in the One Direction cinematic universe. They would star any given member of the band and you, also known as Y/N, which stands for your name, because nothing says immersive like insert your name here every other sentence. Amongst coffee shop meet-cutes and two characters who didn't yet realize their mutual attraction, somehow ending up in a hotel room with one bed, one of the most beloved tropes in One Direction lore is a girl being noticed in a sea of thousands of screaming fans because she was not like the rest of those heathens, thirsting for attention. She was reading. It sounds like the pinnacle of pick-me-ism now, and we frequently memify these scenarios, but at one point in time, I earnestly believed that reading a book front row at a One Direction concert was a surefire way to win Harry Styles' love and affection, that having an air of literariness would make one appear far more attractive than just a pretty face. Though this notion seems like a relic of the cool girl era, I couldn't help but see some parallels with the internet's relationship to the reading girl now. We adore her.
I actually hang out in here with my friends and we read books, which is crazy because who reads books?
I feel like in the past couple of years, we've seen a resurgence in this romanticization of reading and bookishness, to the point where it's become aestheticized. Look no farther than the New York Post declaring that Gigi and Bella Hadid have made books the hottest accessory of 2019, or that Kendall Jenner reads book on yacht is not only a fact, but a sincere headline, or that there is a celebrity book stylist floating around LA making the rich and famous look tastefully well read. While communities of book lovers aren't new, as of late, it seems like there's been a shift from treating reading as a private activity to a performance worthy of news coverage and aesthetic Instagram posts. In her perceptive piece, The Grand Unified Theory of Aesthetic Vlogging, Safi Hallan-Farah pointed out Gen Z's newfound penchant for a certain type of influencer, one who is not only beautiful, but also intellectual and interesting. And what better way to signal one's eruditeness than posting about books? So in today's video, I want to explore how reading, at least for the Chronically Online, became cool again. Though reading as performance seems contradictory in the modern era, it's actually how it started, though more out of necessity than vanity. The earliest written texts were meant to be read aloud because most people were illiterate. In 330 BC, when Alexander the Great silently read a letter from his mother in front of his troops, the already awestruck men were further stunned by their general's otherworldly capability to read silently. With the advent of the printing press and widespread literacy, reading as a private interior activity became the norm, and some scientists even believe that it has altered our social and neurological landscapes. Nicholas Carr most notably explored this in his 2010 book, Into the Shallows. He found evidence that reading allowed for the human brain to think more linearly in more prolonged periods of time, and that the invention of the internet has quickly eroded our ability to concentrate for long stretches. In an NPR interview, he noted, "The reality, especially for young people, is that online time is crowding out the time that might otherwise be spent in prolonged, focused concentration." The piece continues, Carr views the advent of the internet as not just technological progress, but a form of human regress. Human ancestors had to stay alert and shift their attention all the time. Cavemen who got too wrapped up in their cave paintings just didn't survive. Carr acknowledges that prolonged solitary thought is not the natural human state, but rather an aberration in the great sweep of intellectual history that really just emerged with the technology of the printed page. The internet, Carr laments, simply returns us to our natural state of distractedness. Many Gen Zers like myself commiserate over having goldfish-like attention spans thanks to endless hyperlinks and 6-second videos as the bread and butter of our upbringing. I feel like I have a sort of Stockholm syndrome with the internet. I'm acutely aware I spend way too much time on it, but usually I can't help myself. The first time I truly realized that I was out of control in my relationship with the internet was after reading Into the Shallows for a summer reading assignment in my senior year of high school. I read it in 2017, but in retrospect, it basically feels like the prequel to The Social Dilemma, a 2020 documentary that has made the perils of spending too much time online more known than ever. In the past few years, especially with the advent of screen time tracking, I've become much more aware of my addiction and have tried to actively combat it by reading, and clearly, I'm not alone. When asked about her recently publicized reading habits, Kendall Jenner admitted that for her, reading was a form of therapy, that it was nice to look at something that wasn't her phone screen. Jenner's romance with books made waves in 2019 when she was photographed lounging on a yacht while reading a sticky-noted copy of Tonight I'm Someone Else, an indie-published essay collection by Chelsea Hodson. While a celebrity simply breathing is enough fodder for a headline these days, this one was different. In a world where models are reduced to their appearance, to see one of the most well-known supermodels doing something so interior as reading seemed nearly dystopian. Earlier in the year, when Jenner was caught poolside reading Darcy Wilder's Literally Show Me a Healthy Person, she was ironically hailed the queen of alt-lit. The Daily Beast, somewhat sexistly, noted that Kendall's choice in literature suggests that Jenner might be a far more complex, darker person than fans previously imagined. When Andrea Whittle of W Magazine asked Darcy Wilder why the images of Kendall reading felt simultaneously glamorous, jarring, and compelling, Wilder responded, "Most of us have a relationship with reading and books, and the experience is very internal and solitary, which is potentially a juxtaposition with the outward-facing celebrity. It's kind of like everyday minutia that makes them seem just like us, while also illustrating how completely different their lives are." While in the case of Kendall Jenner, celebrity and books seem to be an unlikely pairing, it's becoming more common than ever. Reese Witherspoon, Emma Roberts, and Kaya Gerber are all in the business of recommending books to their millions of followers, and it's no secret that Hollywood has had a long love affair with the literary world. Filmmaking pioneer George Millay created the first film adaptation of Cinderella in 1899. Since then, countless books have been transformed to fit the silver screen. In the 2010s, it felt like every teen dystopian novel was also a movie, and for good reason. There's much more incentive to finance a movie if there's proof that millions of people already love a story and will pay money to see the live-action version of it. Reese Witherspoon has run with this idea and done pretty well with it. Witherspoon formally launched her book club, Reese's Book Club, in 2017 in partnership with her production company Hello Sunshine. Even before her official book club in 2014, Reese had optioned the rights to and produce the film adaptation of Gone Girl, and also produced and starred in Wild, based on a memoir by Cheryl Strayed. Witherspoon was compelled to start producing movies because of the lackluster roles that were being offered for women her age in Hollywood. Reese's Book Club has sort of acted as an idea factory for her production company. Reese finds a compelling story, stamps it with her seal of approval. The book becomes exponentially more popular because of that stamp, and she turns it into a major motion picture, which she often also stars in. It was Witherspoon's love of books that took her from fading early 2000s starlet to present-day producer powerhouse. But why is it that Kendall Jenner's bookishness is met with shock and skepticism, while Reese's is met with overwhelming praise? Well, Reese's ability to be trusted as a literary tastemaker is largely dependent on her previous acting roles. Constance Grady of Vox put it like this: Reese Witherspoon nearly always plays driven, bookish women who we see reading on screen, which is to say characters who we are meant to understand as smart. Witherspoon's two most iconic characters are in fact iconic specifically for their smarts and their stick-it-to-itiveness. Elections, Tracy Flick, who overachieves her way through high school, and Legally Blonde's Elle Woods, who struts into Harvard Law chirping,
"What, like it's hard?"
Witherspoon's star image is based on the idea of Witherspoon as smart and driven and bookish in a funny, a likable way. I think it's really interesting how Reese has managed to carve out roles for herself in the fictional realm by carving out a role for herself in real life. Her role in the real world as a beautiful and intelligent yet relatable tastemaker mirrors the archetype of the increasingly popular influencer who is known just as much for her looks as she is known for her thoughts. In the case of someone like Kendall Jenner, it's much harder to seamlessly transition into this archetype because she and her family are largely associated with vapidness, and that label is pretty damn sticky. I don't think the Kardashians or any other traditionally head empty type influencers are going anywhere anytime soon, but there's a discernible hunger for something a little different. As Safi Helen Farah has noted, the market demands of an information-dense culture, and the reality that Gen Z is the savviest generation of consumers has created an expectation of a sort of individuation that appears thoughtful and well-rounded. It's not enough for young would-be influencers to influence. In the past few years, the popularity of the reading girl aesthetic on social media has skyrocketed. Think posts of inexplicably large book piles, posing in charming bookstores, book-themed Instagram highlights, or a worn page annotated with a witty caption. While it might not be a conscious effort to appear well-read on the part of the poster, it does imply that said poster is well-rounded. She not only dresses cute and looks pretty, she is also literary. While the reading girl is trendy, I don't think her popularity is a result of mere surface-level romanticization. She has been born out of an increasingly large number of people, especially the chronically online, like myself, realizing just how much time we spend looking at our screens and how bad it is for us. In fact, book sales in the United States grew 8.2% during the pandemic, according to NPD, the most since 2010. For me, entering lockdown was a huge wake-up call. I remember very early on, my screen time reached up to 14 hours a day, and I was like, this is embarrassing and unacceptable, and I have to start doing something else with my time, so I turned to reading. I had always enjoyed reading growing up, but there was a rather sharp drop-off with my book consumption by the time I started using social media and streaming as my primary methods of entertainment. In 2020, when I started reading more often, it was just as much for entertainment as it was a conscious form of self-improvement. If I chose to read for 30 minutes instead of scrolling through my phone, it felt like choosing to eat an apple instead of a bag of chips. And who doesn't want to brag about that to their Instagram followers? The story of the reading girl on social media starts far before 2020, though. I'd argue she can be traced back to BookTube, a literary-minded subset of the YouTube community that dates back to 2010. BookTube describes the band of YouTube channels dedicated to all things books. Videos consist of book reviews, bookshelf tours, reading challenges, or literally any topic that falls under the umbrella of bookish. Though BookTube is relatively small, its impact has been felt on other social media platforms and by the publishing industry. Outside of YouTube, communities of book lovers have expanded to other platforms like Instagram with Bookstagram, TikTok with BookTok, and Twitter with BookTwitter. Yet, as BookTube has become more mainstream and expanded to photo-first platforms that value style over substance, I have to wonder if the true love of reading has been lost in translation. Most of the time, posting a book to Instagram means that you have read it and really enjoyed it. But as the appearance of literariness becomes increasingly marketable, the aestheticization of reading is more common than ever. Look no further than the fact that there's a celebrity stylist accessorizing stars with books. Earlier this year, the New York Times Magazine interviewed Jenna Hip, a bookstore owner in Los Angeles, who recently launched a high-end library curation service. Hip claims that she isn't the mysterious book stylist dressing celebrities for their outings, but she does help their homes appear more scholarly. Clients come to her with an empty bookshelf and a desired color scheme or aesthetic, and she pulls the books to make their dreams a reality. Hip admits that her clients, including 10 unnamed celebrities, care more about how it looks than the actual books. Clients will say, I want people to think I'm about this. I want people to think I'm about that. Books have always been used to signal a sense of studiousness, but the fact that these clients so unabashedly only care about the cover or even just the spine of a book is what makes this story feel so unnerving. While I think all the aforementioned factors have contributed to reading becoming cool again, I don't think it's a coincidence that we're seeing a rise in the romanticization of reading around the same time that we've demanded a sense of social responsibility from influencers and celebrities. We've told them that being beautiful and aspirational isn't enough. You must also, at the bare minimum, be socially aware, if not a pseudo-activist. One of the most common ways stars have bent to this request is by sharing infographics and showing their followers that they are educating themselves by reading. Are some of these posts more genuine than others? Of course. Is the performance of bookishness without substance frustrating? Yes. Should you pull out a book front row at a Harry Styles concert? Absolutely. But in all seriousness, there could be much worse things to romanticize than books, and gatekeeping reading is simply regressive. So go forth, turn your page, and if you feel truly compelled, post it to Instagram. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the rise of reading below, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!